Then I'm going to select this group and move it back to the center. So if you played with the transformations at all, you're probably going to have to pivot, make the pivot point center and then move it back in. But since I didn't play with any of my transformations, I could just click translate Z and 0 and it moved right back. Okay. Now I want to make a bone. I'm just going to make one bone, and you'll understand why here in just a little bit. But right now I'm going to hold X, not Z, and press the origin, and then hold X out here just a bit, and that'll work just fine. And then for now I'm going to hide that. I just wanted that to be there for the future. Now I'm going to create a NURBS curve in the front view. I'm going to hold X like I did last time on the origin, and then pull out like this, and you'll see that translate is 0, and that's because I was holding X on the origin. Now I'm going to pull this outward. Whoops, I was holding on the wrong thing. There we go. Now I'm going to open up the outliner and duplicate this NURBS curve. This is a little rigging trick. Basically what I'm going to do here is, if for any reason this NURBS curve has translation, rotation, attributes in it, it could potentially affect the animation of our object. So what we want to do is we're going to name this NURBS circle aperture control, and I'm going to name this NURBS circle aperture control orientation, or you can make that a smaller word if you want to, but I'm going to delete the orientation shape. If you can't see orientation shape, you need to go up into display and click this shape button right here, delete. So now the aperture control itself has no translation, rotation, or scale. The orientation does, and that's important because this control is what's actually going to be doing things. So now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make custom attribute. I'm going to make a title first, and I'm going to call this thing our aperture control section. I'm going to make it displayable integer 0. Displayable integer 0. And this, it really doesn't matter if you make it a vector or whatever, because it's displayable, not keyable, so it doesn't, you can't really do anything with it anyway. It's just a title placeholder, so that now when I make our aperture control, aperture width, I'm going to make this keyable. I'm going to make it a float with a minimum of 0, a maximum of 10, and a default of 0. And basically, you can see this is like my header for my aperture controls, right? There's a reason why I chose 0 to 10. I was experimenting with this when I made up how to do the robot eye, and I just found that that was a good scale to use, because if I go in here and I rotate until it goes through the eyeball, I can see here, whoa, hang on. Okay, I'm going to freeze the transformations on these blades. Yeah, apply. And I told you about that earlier. You don't want a bunch of information in here because it'll totally mess up your rig. Okay, so if I go out to where it crosses the skin and I come back in just a bit, this is the full aperture width, right, at -45. So I'm going to select this, and this, and because I instanced these when I made them instead of making copies, I only have to select one. And then I'm going to come in and go to Rendering Hypershade, and select Inputs and Outputs, and just drag these two down. Now, I need a Multiply Divide node, which you'll find by going into Maya Utilities, Multiply Divide, and I'm going to send in here by middle clicking Other. Aperture width goes into Input 1 X. Really doesn't matter. Basically, when you click on the Multiply Divide node, you'll see that the X is yellowed out. That means that there's a value being sent to it. And 2X is going to be the number that we multiply it by. Since aperture control was 0 to 10, 10 being the maximum, and our maximum aperture angle was -45, I'm going to put in -4.5 here. And then I'm going to drag, by middle click dragging, Other, Output X to Rotate Z. And I close. And now when I grab this and I middle click out here and scroll, it controls the aperture width. It's awesome. I love it. Okay. Now I'm going to make one more curve. Hold Z, or hold, I keep saying that, hold X. Well, let's try that again. Hold X, click, and let go of X and drag. If you had trouble doing that earlier, I apologize. I should have clarified that you were supposed to let go of X before you dragged. Okay. Now right click, go to Control Vertex, and I'm just going to grab these corners. This is just for me to know which controller does what. This is my aim controller, and I want to be quite clear that this is something I can translate around, and for some reason this little star thing just does it for me. I can tell that that's what I'm supposed to do with this, is move it. Okay, now I'm going to unhide the bone, and I'm going to go to Skeleton IK Handle Tool. You want to make sure that SC Solver is selected, and then click the parent joint and the child joint. And what an IK handle does is it allows you to move the end, or the child joint, and affect the orientation of the parent joint. Never, ever, ever should you grab the parent or the child joint and move it around. That's just going to cause all kinds of problems. It's going to stretch the joint, it's going to mess up the orientation. You want to grab the IK handle. Which is why I made this nice little, I'm going to move this in. Notice that when I moved it, I grabbed the orientation group. I didn't grab the control. I grabbed the orientation group and moved it. And that's because if I grab the control, it still has no translation on it. Now I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to, in the top view, hold V, because it will snap to objects now, and it snapped to the bone immediately. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other controller. I'm going to call this Look Control, duplicate it. There we go. Call that Look Control Orientation. Parent it, and remove the shape. Okay, now, rather than parenting like normal, which you can parent things, like let's say I want to parent this look control to this control here. I could select this and then the object that I want to be the parent and select P. And now if I move this around, it's parented, right? The difference is that in the outliner, look control and aperture control are separate. and that if I were to scale this, oh, it does do it. I thought it didn't. Well, never mind then. The only difference is the outliner, that I know of anyway. So I'm going to unparent that just by undoing, because that would be an awful thing to have parented. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Now, instead of using that oh, I'm so sorry if I confused you just now. I was telling you the wrong thing completely. If I were to grab this, click that, and parent, you'll see that the aperture control now has look control inside it. That's what I meant to say. If you use the P button to parent, it will do that. If instead I were to select this control and this control and constrain parent, now this control is still parented to it, but if I were to scale it, it doesn't actually affect the scale. It kind of looks like it, but it's not actually affecting the scale. You can see. Maybe you can't, but trust me, it's not affecting the scale. And also, the look control and the aperture control are separate still. So I apologize if that was confusing, but I hope maybe that cleared some things up. Basically, the reason I wanted to teach you that is because I'm going to parent this to this. And to do that, I'm going to grab the look control, and then I'm going to grab the IK handle, and then I'm going to go to constrain parent. And what that did is it parented the IK handle to this controller, so now the bone moves with this controller. I'm also going to parent this to the aperture control to the bone by constrain parent. And I'm going to do one more time, grab the bone, grab the eye, press up to grab the whole eyeball, constrain parent. So now when I move this, it rotates the eye, and now when I grab this, it changes the aperture width. And that's really the entire iRig. Well, I'm going to unhide the sclera. And now this is the eyeball. It's great. It's nothing too fancy, but it's an iRig, and I really hope that this helped you to understand, if nothing else, the difference between parenting and using the parent constraint, and overall how to rig, just how to make custom attributes and apply them to other objects. So, if anybody has any questions, or if you'd like to suggest a tutorial for me to do, you can send me an email at matt.barr, that's B-A-R-R, at peculiarmotion.com. If you would like, you can look on my resume to find that email on the website. Alright, well, I hope to do another tutorial soon, and I will talk to you later.